Yeah, this is going to be harder than I thought. So in my last video, I called Blair White roaming millennial. I had been following the roaming millennial vegan gains ridiculousness on Twitter, and it was ridiculousness. And I just had roaming millennial on the brain. My bad. I also mentioned John Money and how his research was twisted and stunted. It turns out the person who may have done the twisting and stunting of that research was John Money. I don't know if he was a postmodernist at first, because I don't think that existed when he began his research in the 50s. But by the 60s, he was already a social constructionist, and I'm going to link an article as to how far he took this in the 60s and into the 70s. And just, you gotta read that article. That first is from Marina Shutup, a YouTuber, to Laci Green. And it seems to smatter of, if you aren't non-binary, then you can't know non-binary, so don't talk about non-binary. And it's really easy to explain why that is complete bullshit. If the infinite spectrum of gender is a real thing, then there is no binary. And cis male and cis female aren't binary. They're simply the representations of the boundary of this infinite spectrum of gender. And as part of that infinite spectrum, have every right to be part of the conversation on that spectrum. It's just strange that they want 99.8 or so, probably more, percent of the population to be disallowed from the conversation on gender. I don't know why that is, but keep it in mind. Gender is a social construct, you believe? Great. Anyone who claims to be non-binary disagrees with you. They may not know they disagree with you, but they have to, because they don't think it's a social construct, gender. They think it's a personal choice. They think it's completely subjective. It has nothing to do with society. It has to do with their taste. Is it a list of 30-odd genders recognized by New York State? 70-odd genders codified elsewhere? All with listed pronouns? They can pick and choose their label, and then they don't even have to adhere to the pronouns offered by the state of New York or whoever the hell has 70-odd genders. You can pick your label and pick your pronouns. There's nothing socially constructed about it. It's just personal choice. I'm not gonna lie, this one got to me a little bit. I feel bad that you went through that. I can't know what that's like. I can only imagine. I feel just as bad that you felt compelled to share that in an attempt to justify your place in a conversation. You don't, that's what free speech is. You don't ever have to justify your place in a conversation. You just get one. This is where it sounds less sympathetic. Is I've seen a handful of your videos. You look all woman to me. You know, what happened? As far as I can tell, you literally grew out of it. Now, in Toronto, where I live, at our Center for Addiction and Mental Health, there was a doctor by the name of Ken Zucker who treated trans children. And one of his ideas was to tell kids who thought they should have been born the other gender, for example, you may want to be a girl, but it's totally okay to be a boy. And for that kind of treatment, he was expelled from the Center for Addiction and Mental Health. He was removed. Something like 95% of the kids as young as 4, 5, and 6 who came to see him literally grew out of it and were totally comfortable by their adult years in their body. Just because something is a social construct doesn't give people license to make things up built around the social construct. Lions and tigers defend their territory against intruders. We don't get to make shit up about private property. Capuchins and chimpanzees understand ownership and expect a profit on trade. But we don't get to make up money. That's called counterfeiting. The social constructionist doctrine around which things like, in particular, non-binary genders are based is a house built on the sand. And people like you, Laci, who are willing to open a dialogue with people with whom you fundamentally disagree, represent the tide. Whether consciously or not, they know their foundation is shoddy. And they also know that you, Laci, have the capacity to open a floodgate that will wash their arguments away. That's why you're going to get the flack you're going to get, that you are getting already. They fear it. Now, personally, I disagree with quite a lot of what you say. But if you say we should all have the freedom to express our opinions, I can strongly agree with you on that, and we have a common ground. And you're going to find that the people who may be considered right-wing, alt-right, Nazis, are actually free speech advocates who, when you're willing to acknowledge their free speech, will stop trolling you almost immediately and have a conversation. Now, the conversation may be heated, but you'll notice that the ad hominems will drop to minimum or nil. But the heat of the conversation comes from the idea that if I don't represent my position as strongly as possible, as vigorously as possible, I do not only my position a disservice, I do your position a disservice. I deny you the opportunity to hone your position against argumentation into the finest possible point. into the sharpest edge that you can use to cut through arguments. And that's what the debate is for. To make sure that everybody on all sides are sharpening their points. I wouldn't do you that disservice. I don't expect anybody on my side to do you that disservice. But don't conflate heated argument with anger. Don't conflate vigor with ad hominem. Argue your position as hard as you can. Do your best to convince them. Do your best not to be convinced. Because they're going to do the same, and that's exactly what we need. Good luck to you, Laci. All the best. Relevant links to shit I said in the description? Maybe. I'm Irving Twin. Like, subscribe, or don't. It's a free country. At least it used to be.